Well, hello, riders. It is me, Tori Goddard, and I want to welcome you to the first episode of the Embodied Rider podcast. Cannot believe I am finally saying that. I have been working on this for quite a while. I've been really wanting to launch this podcast for quite some time, and I have finally had the time, space, the energy to finally start. And I just want to dive right in. So today's episode is just going to kind of be a little bit of an introduction, really a little bit more about the Embodied Rider, and maybe kind of how I got into horses and where my journey has kind of been going this far. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and dive right in. So as you guys know, if you haven't been following me for quite some time, I have been riding horses since I was 16. I'm 27 now, so I've been riding for about 11 years. And I've always loved horses. I've always had a really deep connection with horses. And I think that a lot of little girls have that as a dream. But I feel like mine was more than a dream. I really feel like it was a calling. I feel like the Lord called me to horses, not only as a hobby, but as a career. So I'm not training or teaching or giving lessons full time as of yet. I am a full-time health coach. I am a yoga instructor. I also make all organic handmade skin and body care products. And I love gardening. I love being outside. Horses is my therapy. Horses are my therapy. And horses has kind of been a little bit of a side thing for a while, but as I've grown in my faith and my walk with the Lord, He has been leading me more to the path of, hey, Tori, like I can see you thriving in this area. So that's kind of where the Embodied Rider came from, because I was doing like a health coaching program for women struggling with like hormones and a lot of eating disorder behavior, because a lot of my story is I struggled with an eating disorder at a very young age. When I was like 12 years old is when I first started having like eating disorder thoughts and eating disorder behavior. And I was actually in treatment from age 13 to 19. So I was in and out of treatment. I wasn't like in it for like the full time, but I was in and out of treatment for ages 13 to 19. And that's where a lot of my passion for health and wellness came about, was from my own healing journey, which is why I created that health coaching program. But throughout my healing, I've really just found a deep connection to God through horses. And I have I don't even know how old he is. He's probably 19 or 20, because I didn't know how old he was when we got him. My horse, Apollo. And I feel like I healed so much just not only like being around that horse, but riding him and engaging with him and just having that deep sense of purpose. And I just remember thinking like, this is healing. Like anytime I'm with a horse, I just feel like I'm as close to God as I'm going to get. Anytime I'm really in nature, which it makes so much sense because it's God's creation. But I definitely have a deep, deep connection to horses. And that's why, like, you know, there's girls that go through like the horse phase and then they leave, or they go get married, or, you know, they have families. And hey, that's fantastic. Go for it, girl. Like, heck yes. Like, that's what we should be doing. And so they fall away from horses. But I feel like I am single. I'm a single 27-year-old girl. Like, I've never been in a relationship. I've never really had a boyfriend, right? Like, I've had, you know, and I'm totally open on this podcast. I'm not going to lie. But I've never been in a relationship. And totally can, like, get me super discouraged. Like, does the Lord not have anybody for me? But I've been, and I can't doubt that, you know, because if it's in God's plan, it's going to be in God's plan. And I'm very much into believing that. For a long time, I would say that I fought against that. I was like, no, like, God, I know you want me to be with somebody. Like, there's got to be somebody. And yeah, of course, there may be somebody out there for me. But back to what I was originally talking about was, as I've grown in my faith and as I've grown in this season of singleness, I've actually really realized that I feel, and of course, this is just what I can feel from what the Lord has been telling me. I can't guarantee heck yeah, I know the way, I know the plan. No, I'm just saying what I feel as though the Lord is leading me into because of my passions and desires that I feel like they are desires from the Lord. He's kind of guiding me in this direction of focusing in on my career growth. And in this stage of my life right now, I have a lot of growth. The Embodied Rider is growing. It's becoming exactly what I hoped and dreamed it would be. And so I really want my energy and my focus and my attention to be in that. And that's not saying that I don't have time for a relationship. It's just the Lord has given me more peace in saying, hey, I may not be providing this for you right now, but look at what I am providing for you in another area. And while this podcast may be about horses and fitness and health, it's also about growing in a relationship with the Lord. It's also about exploring where you are in your life, not feeling alone, knowing that you're not alone in whatever it is that you're going through. I want it to be an open and honest podcast that resonates with everyone. So I'm going to share tips about everything. I'm going to share topics about everything because I just feel like that includes everyone. But it is going to mainly be focused around health and fitness. And of course, ponies are going to be mentioned a lot, but the Lord has been such an integral part of my healing and my life and my journey, and where I am today would not be without him. He's my rock. And that's where I feel a lot of peace and contentment, is knowing that I always have the Lord. I'm never alone, right? Because he's omnipresent. He's omnipotent. He's all-knowing. He's all-present. And as a strong believer, I need to choose to find peace and rest in that. And so that's where I've found a little bit more peace in the direction of this season of singleness. I also don't have a lot of friends. I'm a very to myself kind of person, but I'm grinding. I'm working all the time. And now that's another thing that the Lord has kind of been showing me little signs of. He's been giving me things on YouTube, podcasts that are random, and I'll be listening to them, and it will be mentioning how we do certain things to avoid certain things, basically, right? And so, for instance, working could be a trauma response. It could be my nervous system just on chronic fight or flight. And yeah, I'm kind of fully aware of that. And yeah, I am working on it. But at the same time, I do find a lot of peace in what I do. And so I think that it is finding that fine line of hey, you know what? I do work. But I also feel a strong peace in my heart. And I find time for myself and to connect with God and to connect with nature and to slow down. So I do find a balance, and I'm not perfect. I do need to work on that a lot. But I've definitely gotten better with it. So kind of back to where I was originally talking about was kind of how I got into horses. It really did come from my own healing. I still struggle with an eating disorder. I'm not 100% healed. I don't actively act on any of the behaviors. I don't necessarily binge or purge or heavily restrict, but those thoughts are still there. I have a lot of mental chatter, and I feel like horses have really helped me overcome a lot of that. And just in the sense of, as somebody who has had an eating disorder, being so body focused and feeling like that was, I feel like a lot of my eating disorder was an anxiety response. It was a trauma response. It was a coping mechanism. So if I felt out of control in a certain area of my life, or I felt uncertain about something, I would resort to food and controlling what I was eating, controlling what my body looked like, maybe over exercising, things like that, which is really hard. I put a lot of abuse on my body, and I'm just going to be fully transparent. I have a lot of long-lasting damage to my body from having an eating disorder. My hormones are absolutely crazy, which is kind of ironic. Like I said, I am a health coach, so I work with a lot of women on hormones and health and things like that, but that doesn't mean that I can just fix myself just because I'm a health coach. A lot of health coaches need their own health coach, and so I do work with a lot of people, but hormonally, my menstrual cycle like is pretty much non-existent. I have a lot of digestive issues, and that has really been impacted. Well, it really started from my eating disorder. So just a lot of long-lasting damage that I'm still trying to heal from. And that was over like, what, 9 years ago. Like, it's just really sad. And I feel for people that do struggle with eating disorders and any mental health. Because I had a lot of anxiety, depression. I can get emotional talking about it because I don't talk about it a lot anymore. I used to go to therapists, I used to see dietitians, and I'm not saying that like I'm doing this on my own now, but I do feel alone in a lot of ways. And so I guess that kind of ties into horses, and horses are like my just constant grounding. Like, they're always there. They're always going to love me because I constantly feed them every day. I get to ride them. I get to spend time with them. And I have a deep respect for them. And I don't know why I'm getting emotional because, like, I don't know. I have a deep respect for horses because they've taught me so much about myself. And if you guys have ever seen, like, anything about horses, is a lot of people will say that they're mirrors to our soul. And so I want to be strong. I want to be healthy because I want to take care of them, and I want to take care of them well. And I want to achieve the goals that I have with my riding. I am such a big dreamer. I have goals, you guys, to go to the Equestrian Olympics, and heck, I'm going to make that happen. I'm just going to make it happen. And I love that for myself because I'm dreaming big, and the sky is the limit. And even probably more than, like, the sky isn't the limit, you know? So like I said, I just have a deep respect for horses, and I really can't imagine my life without them. And a lot of people are always like, oh my gosh, horse girls are crazy. Like, we get such a bad rap, you guys. Like, horse people just get a bad rap. And it may just be because we're hardworking, we're dedicated, like, we do love our horses. We kind of are obsessed, but I think the reason that people become so obsessed with horses is because they teach you so freaking much. They teach you so much. They teach you hard work. They teach you dedication. They teach you to never give up. I've been working with one of my horses for over 7 years, and we're not even at the highest level of dressage yet, right? Like, it takes so long to train a horse. And so it teaches you a lot about patience. It teaches you a lot about skill, mindset, and it teaches you to get your eyes off of yourself, which I love, because whenever we are in that super anxious or stressed out state, we do kind of start to get in that overthinking pattern. We get into that chronic sympathetic fight or flight nervous system, which is where a lot of, anxiety, depression, eating disorders stem from, is an imbalanced nervous system. And throughout my years of health coaching school and yoga training, and I'm also a fascial maneuvers coach, so that's another thing that I incorporate into my Embodied Rider program, which I'll talk a little bit more about at the very end, kind of like my courses, my programs, my communities. But I am a certified fascial maneuvers coach. So through all of that, I've learned so much about the nervous system and how horses are so therapeutic to the nervous system. And it's also crazy because like I was mentioning, like, your horse is a mirror to your soul. So horses will pick up on your energy. They'll pick up on your frequency. They'll pick up on your heart rate, like usually within 5 feet distance. So if I'm coming up to my horse and I'm super anxious and stressed and I've had a terrible day at work, like, of course they're going to shy away from me. They're going to be like, girl, like, go figure yourself out and then come back to me. Now, I have a horse that will literally ground me, self-regulate me. Like, if I come up to him and I'm like super stressed, anxious, whatever, he will help me basically self-regulate, which I'm like, God bless your soul for taking this on and helping me, because I cannot do this on my own. I'm like, I know that the Lord is here. I know that God is helping me through this, but I need some physical contact on earth to bring me back down. So of course, always going to prayer and the Lord first, but to have that grounding object like a horse is incredible. So like I was mentioning, horses do pick up on your energy, and some of them will ground you. And just to know that like that constant form of communication is there teaches you so much about how you do need to self-regulate, how it's just kind of like people, like they're going to pick up on your energy. Like horses aren't the only things that pick up energy. Humans pick up energy, right? So like if I'm walking into a room or I'm hopping on a coaching call and my energy is like all up here, like my client, my colleague, my friend, they're going to feel that energy. Same thing with your horse. So horses have taught me a lot about myself on how to approach certain situations and how to handle or deal with certain situations in a sense that's not in an overreacting way. And basically how to self-regulate. To know the difference between where my nervous system is. Am I on chronic fight or flight, or am I in the parasympathetic rest and digest? And a lot of eating disorders, mental health issues stem from an imbalanced nervous system. At the root, I'm convinced that's the root cause. There's this guy that I was following on, I'm still following on Instagram. I'll see if I can find it and then link it in the info of this podcast, whatever you want to call it, the bio. I don't know what it's going to be called, but where I link all of the information and details, like my course and stuff. I'm going to link his book because I haven't read it yet, but I've been following him on Instagram, and his whole concept is about how we, not all of us, but a lot of us navigate our healing and our nervous system and coping through food. And it doesn't just have to be through food. Like it could be through drugs, sex, alcohol. We find things that help us cope. And there's a fine line. And some of us use food to do that. Some of us use either undereating or overeating to cope with our emotions, traumas, nervous system imbalances. Because especially if, like, say you've been in the chronic fight or flight state for so long and you don't even realize it, your body becomes addicted to the stress hormone of adrenaline and cortisol. And believe me or not, like, you guys can do your research on it, but your body becomes addicted to cortisol and adrenaline. So when people start practices like grounding and maybe horse therapy or yoga, meditation, deep states of prayer, the nervous system can flip out and you're going to be like, I don't want to sit still. I don't want to do this. I'm getting even more anxious. I'm getting even more mad. Like, your body can get into like this crazy, crazy state because you're literally rewiring your nervous system. So that's a really important thing to keep in mind throughout like anybody's healing journey, is knowing that there is going to be a rough patch of healing, you know? And so it's incredible. Like, all of that is basically, I'm not saying that horses taught me all of that because I did go to school to learn a lot of this, but they've taught me like that inner connection, like tapping into my intuition, tapping into, more self-awareness, a deeper sense of self-awareness. And that's why I love riding, is because it is physical activity. Yes, it's exercise. It's great. Keeps my body moving, helps my lymph, but it also builds such a deep sense of self-awareness. And there's nothing cooler than experiencing like you connecting with 1,000-pound plus animal. Like, basically through thought alone. Like, your body's guiding them, but mentally you're having to connect in with this horse. And they've got a mind of their own. They can spook, they can buck, they can bolt, but they choose to trust you. Like, when you literally think about it, like, they have all of these opportunities to run, do something stupid, but you are able to provide them a space to trust you. And I think that that is just such a miraculous thing about riding, is the trust. Because I personally have trust issues. Like, major trust issues. Like, I don't really trust people. And the fact that I am able to give 1,000, like I said, 1,000 plus animal an opportunity to trust me builds my own trust. And you know why? Is because when somebody has trust in you, that should automatically give you trust, to trust them. And it's the same thing with people. if someone is choosing to trust you, like, trust them because they're having that much confidence in you. And so it's hard to, like, kind of comprehend that if you're not a horse rider, if you don't have any idea about riding, which maybe some of my listeners will be non-horsey people. I hope that there's people from all walks of life and all athletic backgrounds and passions and hobbies. I hope there's all sorts of people listening to this podcast, because it's going to be healing. It's going to be very soul healing, what I'm going to be talking about. And every episode is just going to kind of be on a whim, and it's just going to kind of be what my heart is feeling that day. Because I feel like that's where most benefit comes from, is non-scripted, non-planned, like, just let it flow from the heart. And I have built up such, like, a deep sense of self-awareness and intuition and inner guidance from God. Like I said, just like such a deeper connection with the Lord, that I feel as though he's guiding me in every single direction. And I have full trust. And that, oh my gosh, that makes me so emotional actually too. I don't know why I'm like, I don't ever cry, you guys, like, ever. And that's probably, I should probably do this. This is why I need to do the podcast, so I can get emotional. I trust the Lord with all my heart. Like, when I say I have trust issues, like, that's probably the biggest lie. Maybe I have ingrained, that was in a limiting belief. Maybe, like, I think I just say that I have trust issues because I've had, like, instances, say, like, for instance, with men that, like, gave me, like, full, like, I do not trust you at all. And there's a total fine line between, like, trusting men and then, like, just trusting. But that's just another topic. But basically, that's where that limiting belief from trust came from, was from situations that I've had. But I do trust. Like, I guess I'm pretty trustworthy, but the one thing that I have no doubt, no hesitancy, is that I do trust the Lord. I trust that he has the plan for my life. Like, for I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you, to give you hope in the future. So I definitely believe that 100%. And that's why I think I've gotten so far in my career and in my writing and in my businesses and in my entrepreneurship, is because I trusted the Lord that he, like, put this on my heart. He's going to carry me through until the end. And there may not be an end. It may just be to enjoy the journey and enjoy the process. And hey, guys, I'm here for it. I am fully here for it. And so if you get anything out of today's episode, anything out of today's podcast, I would, like, encourage you to ask yourself, what is it that I really love? But not only that, is where can I hear the Lord leading me into a deeper state of desire? Because sometimes, we have, like, worldly desires, earthly desires, and we have heavenly, like, our heavenly desires from the Lord. And so it can be very hard to discern. So praying for discernment, like, well, Tori, I love knitting. I love art, but how do I know that that's, like, what I'm supposed to do with my life? And I'm not saying that, like, just because you love art or love knitting means that you need to make that a career. But I feel like most people are so miserable and depressed and anxious is because they're doing stuff that they absolutely hate. Nobody needs to be sitting in an office all day staring at a computer screen. Like, I personally, I work on my computer. Like, I create content. I'm a health coach. I'm on my computer. But I have a fine line and a fine balance. I work at a barn. I teach yoga. I ride my horses. I make skincare. I have other revenues to tap into. So it's not just like work, eat, sleep, start over, repeat, right? So, like I said, I'm not saying, like, just because you have a desire, the Lord gave you a desire, and I feel like our skills, if we're really good at something, then that is a desire from the Lord, because he gave us that gift and talent. So if you're really good at something, I want you to take that and I want you to ask yourself, how can I incorporate this into my day-to-day life to allow for a more abundant version of myself? So like I said, it's not just to say just because you love something means that you need to make it like your full-time career and your full-time job. What I'm saying is, how can you incorporate that into your life to create more balance, to create a better state of peace mentally, physically, and emotionally? Because like I said, the Lord does give us talents and gifts, And I feel like when we utilize those and tap into those, that is honoring to him. 100% honoring to him. I know it. Like, I totally feel that in my heart. I feel like I serve the Lord every single day because he's given me talents. He's given me gifts. He's given me thoughts, ideas, like everything that comes to my mind. Like when it comes to like the words that I'm talking about right now, when it comes to my content on my Instagram, when it comes to things I share on my story, like those thoughts, like those epiphany moments are from him. Like totally, because I am so connected with him. And as we go into, deeper episodes, we'll talk about more health, pineal gland, Christ connection, things like that. But I want my work to be honoring to him because he's given me these ideas because it was a talent that he blessed me with, So that's where I would just encourage you to tap into is like, okay, you know what? I really love art and I feel like I'm very talented at it. How can I incorporate maybe like batch creating a bunch of art and selling it on Etsy, or going to an art show on the weekend, or putting it in an art gallery? How can I, and like I said, it's not that you have to make money or make a business off of it. Maybe it's a gift. Like, hey, I love knitting, and maybe I'm going to knit something for my sister's kid, something like that, right? Like, how can you incorporate little desires, little skills, little talents into your day to create more abundance? Because I know that, for me, and everybody's so different, but when I do the same thing every single day, in and out, I get so mentally numb and dull. And that is when we can't thrive. We don't thrive. So to keep variety into your life, I think is absolutely key. So like I said, if you get anything out of today's episode, we kind of talked about a lot of different things, but I feel like that is the root of what I wanted you to get out of today. And it's just on my heart. Like, I want you to find a skill, a talent. And I want you to, if you're following me on Instagram, like message me, respond to this podcast. It's going to be posted on YouTube and Spotify for creators. So comment and let me know, like, what is something that you love? Like, I want to help you make that into something. Like, heck, 2 minds are better than 1, right? So I just really appreciate you guys listening and taking the time to hear me out. And like I said, I'm going to be super open and honest on this podcast, tears and all, because I don't ever cry. And I think that is a trauma response. I kind of keep myself together because I need to be strong, because when I was in treatment, that was a really rough time, you guys. Like, it was rough. My family kind of tore apart for a while. I may have a separate episode on this, although I don't really like talking about it anymore. I've had a previous podcast where I talked a little bit about like my healing journey, but kind of briefly just going over it. When I was 13, I was sent to a hospital in Dallas, 2 hours away from me. I lived there for like 6 months. And then I was like, during the day, I'd be at the hospital, and then at night I would go to a hotel. So my mom had to move to Dallas, and we were living in a hotel for like 3 months. And that was hell, because my mom and I fought all the time because she was trying to get me well, and I was still super much in my eating disorder. I was like, I don't want to eat. I don't want to heal. I don't want to get better, because I didn't have a reason to get better. Okay. So that's kind of where horses came in. Horses gave me a reason to get better. If that wasn't already clear earlier, like, horses did really pull me out of my rut. But I didn't always have horses. So it was really finding that passion and purpose of like, what is my motivating factor in life? Like, what is going to make me want to really get well? And so that was terrible. My mom was, living in Dallas. Of course, she still had my older sister and my younger sister at home. My older sister was basically raising my younger sister, felt guilty about that. We were always fighting. And then when I moved home, within a year, I relapsed. I was in a terrible state mentally. I was just so unwell. I was super depressed. I was on antidepressants, which I later got tests to find out that my brain chemicals, the chemicals in my brain, were actually incompatible to the medications that I was taking. My psychiatrist actually once overdosed me on medications. He was switching Zoloft to Prozac, didn't lower the dose of Zoloft enough, ended up like literally almost overdosing. I basically got serotonin syndrome, to where I had too much serotonin in my body, affected my brain, and that was just terrible. I feel like I have long-lasting problems from that too. And then I ended up going to another treatment center. This time it was in Arizona, and I was there for about another 6 months, and that was just completely inpatient. I was away from my family. That was hard. Because for a lot of time in that space, I asked the Lord, why me? Like, why did you choose me for this? But when I look back, I wouldn't want anybody to go through what I went through. Like, I would hate for anybody to experience what I experienced. It was terrible. Like, the demons, the inner demons, you guys, like, it was a spiritual warfare. It was 100% spiritual warfare, and to this day, I believe that. I was bound to chains that, like, I could not break. And I was 16 years old. Like, how do I know to surrender my life to the Lord at that point? And of course I did, because, you know, I went to church, and the treatment centers, God bless them, they took us to church. But at 16 years old, to literally lay my life down and be like, God, I'm done. I'm done with this. And yeah, I ended up, when I was in Arizona, I was actually transferred to another treatment center because I wasn't getting well, wasn't getting better, wasn't making progress. I still was fighting the system. Went to Chicago, and that was even worse. There was constant ambulances because people were trying to commit suicide in the bathroom. We were literally locked in, like, this side, like my tiny house size area, like with no windows. Like, it was just terrible. And I say that I've overcome a lot of that trauma, but maybe a lot of what I do to this day, like working and constantly going, is a way for me to suppress that. Because I have a lot of guilt. I have a lot of guilt that for all that time, like, it was always about me and what I needed. And is Tori going to make it? Is Tori going to die? Is she going to survive? Like, a lot of my life was feeling like I was a burden. And so I kind of seclude myself a lot because I don't want to feel a burden. I don't want anybody to take care of me. I don't want anybody to feel like, you know, what does Tori need? Like, is she going to be okay? Like, I just stay in the background because I don't want to be a burden. And girl, like, I know I need to work on that. Like, girls and boys, like, you see, this is a trauma that I'm working through, but I think that's the beauty of talking. And, it just makes me realize a little bit more of what I need to work on. So anyways, I still do struggle with a lot of eating disorder thoughts, but again, I don't act on them. And so that's the difference between having, like, say, any kind of addiction. Like, you are probably going to always have those thoughts, but it's up to you whether you act on them or not. And I choose not to act on them because I have too much purpose for my life. I have too much to offer. And looking back on it, I'm so thankful that I went through what I went through, because it taught me so much about resilience. It taught me so much about how God can put you through something and break you down to the ground and completely rebuild you. You guys, like, He can completely rebuild you in your life. And that just shows how good God is. Like, it just shows His grace, His abundance, and His blessing. Like, and when I was in the deepest, darkest times, I knew, you guys, like, I knew that I was going through something because I was destined for greatness. Like, the Lord is going to bless my life more than I could ever imagine. And so if you are going through something horrible right now and your life feels like it's ending and you don't see a light, you don't see the end of the tunnel, just know that God has to sometimes break you completely down so that he can rebuild you. But he will never leave you in that broken state. He's never going to leave you abandoned. If you trust on him and you seek his will and you ask for his guidance, he will rebuild you. He's going to rebuild you. And he rebuilt me. And I never thought I was going to be rebuilt. And I don't give him enough credit sometimes, I think, because we go through life, so we don't, I don't constantly think, oh my gosh, I was in treatment, I almost died, I was hooked up to heart monitors, feeding tubes, wheelchair, I don't constantly think about that. I'm just living my life in my healthy body that's doing its best to function from the damage that I caused it all those years ago. So whenever we don't take time to reflect on where we were and where we are now, it can sometimes really be hard to give God the credit that he deserves. So thank you, Lord, for guiding me into filming this podcast, because it gave me a deep moment of reflection on where I was and how broken you can be and how built up he can bring you into a glorious state of healing. And I just feel like sometimes I have glimpses of what heaven on earth would be like, or heaven, just because of the state of consciousness that I choose to be in. I take captive of my thoughts. I recognize them. I pray. I cast out the demons, right? I do remember the day where I chose healing. I was actually in Mirasol, which was the treatment center in Arizona. So after I was in Arizona and I went to Chicago, my parents transferred me back to Arizona because they obviously seen it was a better state. That place was hell, the Chicago spot. I was sitting outside in a garden. So they had a garden, and I didn't always do the garden. This was kind of a new thing. And there was chickens, and there was a turtle, and obviously flowers and stuff. And I remember writing in my journal. I remember specifically thinking this is the day. I think it was the day after my birthday, my 16th birthday. I think it was June 11th. I just remember thinking this is the day that I'm shifting and I'm rewriting my story. And Lord, you're going to help me rewrite it, because I don't know where to start. I don't even know what chapter 1 is. I don't even know what the introduction is. Okay. But I know that you're writing it. So put me to work. And I wish I could probably find that journal. I kept a lot of stuff from treatment just because I wanted to one day reflect back on it and see wow, Tori, this is where you were and this is where you are. It's incredible. Praise God for that. But I remember that day, and I think that a lot of it was because I was connecting it with nature. That garden and those chickens just sparked something in me. And I remember the sweetest thing when I came home from treatment. My dad gifted me with 5 baby chickens because he knew that was something I really, really loved and enjoyed, and was something, oh my gosh, a chicken, but he knew that was something that gave me a spark of purpose that motivated me to get well. So yeah, it's the little things in life, that may have been little, but that was a huge thing for me at that time. Huge, massive. 5 baby chickens, dang, I just won the world. I just won the lottery. So yeah, it's just those little things that really spark a light in you. So that's why I encourage you, even if you're not in a deep state of sorrow and misery, find something that you love, you guys, so you don't get to that state of severe brokenness. And if you are really broken, I want you to reach out to me. I want to pray over you. I want to pray with you. I want to fellowship. I want to worship. I want to connect. I want to build his kingdom. And that's what I'm hoping to do, not only through this podcast, but through my businesses, through my skincare, through the Embodied Rider. I want to be able to connect with people and connect them to the Lord. So I have had enough crying, because like I said, I don't cry. So this is the most crying that I've done in probably a couple months, honestly, you guys. Crazy. But yeah, if you guys got anything out of this podcast, Just choose to lean on the Lord, trust in Him, and find something that gives you passion and purpose, because I promise you it will change your life. So before I close this episode out, first episode, wow, that was a whirlwind. Sorry you guys seen all my stuff. My emotions, everything. But before we close out, I just want to give a little brief overview of the Embodied Rider, my equestrian fitness program. I've got courses, I've got programs, and I have communities. So the best way to, kind of see what one would be best is to hop on a call with me. I'll leave my booking link in the description of this podcast, and you can book a call and you can get on a one-on-one with me, and we can go over what the course looks like, what the one-on-one program looks like, and what our community access looks like. So basically, the entire structure of the course, program, and community is all designed to help you as a rider ride better without riding more. I actually have a lot of non-riding, like non-equestrians in my program, in my one-on-one program, because it is more like a cellular detox program, a cellular regeneration program, as well as like a nutrition protocol with fitness, exercise, yoga, fascial release. But the structure of all of my courses, programs, and communities is to help you ride better without riding more through fascial release, mobility, and strength training. So a lot of riders don't realize, I mean, maybe you do realize, I don't know, I can't say most, but I feel like when I was starting my riding, I was like, I don't use the muscles on a day-to-day basis that I do when I'm riding. So I'm really helping you target muscles that you don't normally use on a day-to-day basis, help you targeting those muscles so that you can be better when you are riding your horse. So I'll leave that I'll leave the link to my calendar in the description. So please feel free to book a call with me. I'll also leave my website in the description as well, so you can check out my offerings a little bit more detailed, and looking into those pages and just kind of going over the overview, what it is, what's included, what's provided, that kind of thing. But there'll be more topics on the Embodied Rider to come, maybe down to herbs, my other skincare business, hope, faith, light, love, blessings to all of my listeners. I'm so excited that we're here. We've filmed this podcast, we've recorded it, and this is going to be a weekly thing. So on Sundays, I'm going to launch a podcast episode, so be sure to stay in tune, because as you guys can see, this was a pretty eventful one, but so many blessings to you all, and thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you guys in the next podcast.